Hello, and thank you for being here to watch this video on monitoring alcohol use disorder over time. I am Dr. Laura Leone, a consultant from the National Council for Mental Wellbeing. So, no matter what your position or role is, a huge part of working with individuals with alcohol use disorder is to remember that the individual is not alone, and neither are you. That individual, you, and so many others that work with the individual are all connected as a team. Everyone has their own unique roles and responsibilities that we can both support and rely on. We want to lean on each other while creating choices and a voice for the individual, hopefully ensuring that they have a sense of autonomy and empowerment through the process. To do that, we need to ensure that there are multiple ways that the team can communicate. First is to ensure that you know how to reach the individual you are working with. If they have any difficulties with being reached, then check and see if there are friends or family members or others that you can get consent to contact to reach the individual. Second is to consider how you and the other staff members on the team communicate together. This can be tricky, whether you're within the same organization or not. So, making plans and creating a process and having conversations about the best communication methods among you all is important. Are there team huddles or case conference discussions that can occur? Are there places within the electronic health record or other virtual platforms where you can communicate and collaborate about a person's care? There are many activities that you will need to do while following up with the individual with an alcohol use disorder. One thing is going to be ongoing alcohol use screening. Hopefully, you will have already provided an initial screening to identify a current level of alcohol use and risk. It is important that you regularly give that same screening tool over time to help monitor use and risk level. Screening only 1 or 2 times a year is not enough. Risk level and use can change, and using a standardized and reliable tool, ensuring that the whole team is speaking the same language as well as measuring use and risk is in the same way as each other, is going to be a huge improvement to the process. Assessment and other questions beyond screening tool can be helpful too, but first work together to ensure you're all using that same identified tool or tools. There are many screening tools that exist. Some of the most popular that help monitor alcohol and other substances are the S2BI and the CRAFT for adolescents, or the Audit C plus 2 for adults. As we work together as a team, it is all of our responsibility, including the individual with AUD, to explore and follow through on what supports the individual will need while they are engaged in treatment. This will include taking medications to treat their alcohol use disorder and the medication adherence support that's connected to that. Things such as how to look for and manage side effects, how to discuss concerns about their medication regimen, barriers to their medication adherence, or how to connect the person to get ongoing lab work done. Supporting their treatment means encouraging ongoing physical health, mental health, and substance use monitoring and possible interventions. And truly, it is more than encouraging, right? But it's really about how do we work with that person to get them to a place where they are doing this and doing this all regularly. Considerations regarding intersecting conditions such as trauma, loneliness, and suicidality are also important. Their alcohol use disorder puts that individual at a higher risk for any of those conditions, as well as conditions affecting their heart, blood pressure, and liver. So ensure that you have ways of screening for those conditions and then providing interventions or resources should any of those conditions be detected. It is also vital that you explore and address any concerns related to social determinants of health. Concrete resources and wraparound support is necessary for addressing needs related to food, housing, employment, finances, and any other social determinants of health that come up. As problems in those areas arise, we know that they can negatively impact that individual and their treatment progress. So, front loading support and having a team member identified to aid in those resources if an issue develops can help that individual with an AUD stay on track. Staff on the team who focus on care management can ensure that individual goals are being focused on while connecting them to these types of resources. And while we want the individual's journey from recovery from alcohol use disorder to look like this, what we see here on the screen, the reality, though, is that more likely the experience will be like this, with so many twists and turns. There's going to be roadblocks or setbacks, falls, stumbles, relapses, or the many other terms that we can use to express what can hinder or occur along the road to recovery. And those setbacks will occur. And so we want to normalize that and be helpful to those we work with when we discuss in advance the reality of that happening and helping them to then plan for when it will. Those discussions will connect to barriers to care and treatment and can be connected to the individual's readiness for change. That readiness is not static, and motivation is not an inherent personality trait, right? It is incorrect to think that somebody is either motivated or unmotivated. And instead, that really shifts and changes over time. Its readiness and change is a process and it fluctuates. And it's normal to have ambivalence, to not be 100% for or 100% against something, right? Both wanting and not wanting to make adjustments to somebody's drinking. Staying motivated over the long haul takes effort, practice, and persistence. We can help the person in the change process when we recognize the stage of change that they are in, and then when we match their readiness with how we can speak and work with them. So when we think about the trans theoretical model for change by Prochaska and DiClemente, right, these 5 stages of change that you see here on the screen, usually by this point in time, people have moved past the first stage of change, which the first stage of change is pre-contemplation, right? They're not thinking about a change, they're not making any shifts. It's not something active and on the forefront of their mind yet. So what we can do to match that person's readiness is to help increase an awareness about a particular topic. In this case, their drinking, right? Helping to build concern or interest around that. More likely, though, the individuals we are working with are going to be in a further stage of change, such as the next stage of change of contemplation. This is when somebody is actively thinking about making a shift or a change, a growth or a decision. There's a lot of ambivalence that's a part of the stage of change. And so something that we can do to help that individual is to discuss risks and rewards to making that shift, any personal values or reasons connected to making a change. And then they move into preparation stage of change. And this is where they are starting to or getting ready to make a shift or a change. And what we can do again is explore their commitment and create a plan around those changes or shifts to their drinking. And once they put that plan into motion, they move into action. And this is when they're doing it and putting it forward. And we can help that individual by helping them to implement that plan, supporting their progress, helping them to refine it as needed. Over time, at first it's really hard to do, right? Really hard for that individual to make these shifts and changes. Slowly over time, there is an opportunity for it to get easier and easier. And ultimately, once it starts to get easier to do it and consolidate into lifestyle, that's when somebody enters into the maintenance stage of change. And what we can do is help that individual to consolidate that change into their lifestyle over time. For the individual in their care journey, it can feel overwhelming and like they're going in a bunch of different directions. So, knowing the stage of change that that person is in, so you can best help them and guide them, is essential to the process. And this is really where the skills of motivational interviewing come into play. Using various skills like the motivational interviewing spirit of partnership, empowerment, compassion, and acceptance, and things like the ORs, which are open ended inquiry, affirmations, reflections, and summaries. All of that is necessary for the process. And listening for the things that people say in favor of or in movement towards them making a change. And then, which is change talk, their own change talk, and highlighting that change talk through use of the ORs in conversation, which, helping to reinforce that person's own desire or want or need or reason to make a change in their alcohol use. And if it's been a while since you've actively used the skills of motivational interviewing, then I encourage you to take a refresher course if you can. Another part of monitoring alcohol use over time means helping to provide connections to the individuals that we work with. Sometimes we and the other team members may be the only current support in that individual's life. Over time, though, we can help engage that individual in other social supports and ideally with other people with lived or living experience, which can be vital to their healing experience. Connections made could be with a peer specialist or a support group or 12-step program like AA, or I mentioned earlier some other things like additional connecting to additional health professionals or treatment programs. We can also help the individuals we work with to build or rebuild their family and friend connections. Engagement with family and peers who do not drink alcohol can be especially helpful to that individual in their recovery. Expanding somebody's support network is crucial for their success and well being over time. Healing happens through relationships. The more support a person has, the more recovery capital they have, and the better equipped that they will be through their journey of recovery. Thank you so much for joining me and for watching this video on monitoring alcohol use over time. And also many thanks for all that you do and the individuals you help. Have a wonderful rest of your day.